Let me tell you something I believe with absolute certainty. You are responsible for your future, not your parents, not your government, not your boss, your economy, of your friends or your circumstances. You. This is the starting point of any meaningful change. I don't say that to make you feel pressure. I say it to give you power. Because once you realize that you're the one holding the pen, you stop waiting for someone else to write the story. And you start writing it yourself. Most people spend their lives waiting for the right opportunity, waiting for motivation, waiting for a lucky break, or worse, waiting for permission. But the truth is, life doesn't give you permission. It just gives you time. And what you do with that time determines everything. The problem is, many of us have been taught, subtly or directly, that the future is something that happens to us. That it's some vague, uncontrollable thing floating out there in the distance, shaped by forces we can't predict or understand. But that's a lie we've inherited. The reality is far more empowering. Your future is something you build step by step, choice by choice, every single day. Philosophers have wrestled with the question of free will for centuries. Do we really control our lives? Or are we just reacting to a world that pushes and pulls us? I won't pretend to solve that question here. But I will tell you this, whether or not we are completely free, we are at least partially free, free enough to choose how we respond, free enough to create new paths, free enough to shape our identity through discipline, thought, and action. And that freedom carries responsibility. Responsibility doesn't mean blame. It's not about punishing yourself for where you are. It's about owning your role in where you go next. Responsibility means that you stop outsourcing your progress to luck or circumstance. You stop saying things like, I could be successful if only someone gave me a chance, or I'm stuck because the system is broken. Yes, life is unfair. Yes, people are born into wildly different starting lines. I'm not denying any of that. But fairness is not the foundation of growth. Ownership is. You might not be responsible for where you started, but you are absolutely responsible for where you end up. Jack Ma, of one of the most unlikely success stories of the 21st century, was rejected from dozens of jobs. He was told he wasn't good enough. By schools, by employers, even by KFC. But what made him different wasn't raw talent. It was that he believed something most people never fully grasp. If you don't give up, you still have a chance. Giving up is the greatest failure. That mindset is what responsibility looks like in action. Taking responsibility for your future means you have to stop playing the victim, even when you have every right to. Victimhood feels good in the short term because it gives you an excuse not to try. It gives you something to blame. But it robs you of your potential. It hands your future over to things you can't control. And once you start blaming the world, you stop building your life. Here's a psychological truth. Humans are meaning-making creatures. We search constantly for reasons why things happen, reasons why we suffer, reasons why we succeed or fail. And whatever reason we choose becomes the story we live inside. If your story is that you can't win because life is against you, then that becomes your reality. But if your story is that every obstacle is a stepping stone, then you begin to act like the author of your journey. You become someone who learns from pain, someone who adapts, someone who doesn't just survive difficulty, but uses it. The world doesn't need more people who sit around complaining about the way things are. It needs more people who are willing to take responsibility for changing what they can, starting with themselves. So the question you need to ask is not, what do I want from life? But rather, what am I willing to take responsibility for? That one shift changes everything. Because when you start taking responsibility, your goals stop being wishes. They become plans. Your weaknesses stop being shameful. They become projects. Your setbacks stop being dead ends. They become data. It's not about pretending everything is under your control. It's about focusing relentlessly on what is. Your time, your attitude, your effort, your decisions. People wait for a clear path, but clarity doesn't come before action. It comes from action, from trying, from failing, from moving forward despite the fog. You want to make your own future. Start with this truth: you are not a passenger. You are the driver. And until you grab the wheel, you'll always feel lost, even on the right road. So stop waiting. No one is coming to rescue you. No one is going to build your dream for you. That's your job. And you know what? You're more than capable of doing it. The future you want won't arrive by chance. It will arrive because you showed up for it one decision at a time. Let's talk about something that stops more dreams than failure ever could. Excuses. You know what I mean. The justifications we give ourselves when things don't go as planned. I didn't have the time. The conditions weren't right. Someone else got lucky. These stories feel comforting because they protect us from the sting of responsibility. But they also keep us exactly where we are. And if you want to make your own future, you need to stop building excuses and start building resilience. Life will not go according to your plan. You can prepare. You can strategize. You can visualize success, work hard, and even do everything right. But somewhere along the way, you're going to fall flat. You're going to get rejected. You're going to be misunderstood. You're going to put your whole heart into something and watch it collapse anyway. That's not pessimism. That's reality of, but here's the truth, failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of it. The people you admire, the ones who've built incredible lives and businesses, they've failed more times than you know. The difference is they didn't let failure become a full stop. They used it as a comma. They kept going. That's resilience. And it's one of the most important qualities you'll ever develop. I'm not saying resilience is easy. In fact, it's incredibly hard. It requires emotional strength. It means facing discomfort head on. It means having the humility to learn when your ego wants to defend. It means falling short and still showing up the next day again and again and again. Jack Ma, who many people now see as a symbol of success, once said today is hard, tomorrow will be worse, but the day after tomorrow will be sunshine. Most people give up on the second day. In that place where nothing seems to work, or where doubt is louder than clarity, and where results feel a million miles away. But those who keep going, even when it's hard, eventually get to see that sunshine. That's not just poetic, it's psychological, because persistence rewires your brain. It strengthens your belief in yourself. It gives you proof that you can endure, that you can adapt. This isn't just about business or careers. It's about character. Resilience is the bridge between pain and progress, between disappointment and wisdom, between struggle and strength. And the good news is, it's not something you're born with, it's something you build of. You build it by choosing growth over excuses. You build it by asking, what can I learn? Instead of, why did this happen to me? But let's go even deeper. Philosophically, what is failure? Is it a reflection of your worth? Is it a sign that you're not good enough? Or is it feedback? A signal that something needs to change? When you detach your identity from the outcome, failure becomes useful. It becomes your teacher and once you realize that, you stop fearing it. There's a powerful quote from Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, who said when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. That is the heart of resilience. You might not be able to control every circumstance, but you can always control your response. And that response shapes your future more than the event ever could. Here's what usually happens when we face a setback. We interpret it emotionally, not logically. We think, this shouldn't have happened. I must not be capable. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. But that's a fragile narrative. It turns a single moment into a life sentence. Instead, try a different interpretation. This is part of the process. This is how I learn. This is the cost of growth. That shift in mindset doesn't erase the pain, but it gives it purpose. Resilient people aren't made in easy times. They're forged in the moments where nothing makes sense and they keep going anyway. They aren't the most talented or the most connected or even the most confident. They are the most committed. Committed to the process. Committed to their future. Committed to becoming someone who doesn't quit just because it hurts. And let me be clear, resilience doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending everything is okay. It means facing pain and choosing to move through it, not around it. It means being honest about your struggle without letting it define you. It means understanding that discomfort is not the enemy, complacency is. Think about your own life. What's something you gave up on too early because it didn't work the first time? What talent or goal did you bury under frustration or fear of failure? Now ask yourself, was the problem the failure itself or your relationship to it? Because when you change how you interpret failure, you change how you experience it. And when you change how you experience it, you start to grow from it. That's when the shift happens. That's when you stop breaking down and start breaking through. So the next time you fail, and you will ask yourself one question: what am I going to do with this? That question is where resilience begins. And if you want to make your own future, you have to become someone who answers it with action. Pain is inevitable, but progress is optional. Choose progress every time. If you want to make your own future, you need to stop pouring energy into things you can't control and start investing in what you can. That's not just practical advice. It's a shift in how you live. Because here's the truth most people don't want to face. Much of life will always be outside your control. Your background, your genetics, your market, your competition. You don't choose any of those. And when you focus on those things, you waste time. You waste emotional energy. You build frustration instead of momentum. But when you shift your attention to the things that are always within your reach, your mindset, your time, your decisions, your habits, that's when you begin to feel real power, real clarity, and real growth. This is something Jack Ma understood deeply. He said, "You cannot unify everyone's thoughts, but you can unify everyone through a common goal. That goal, your future, has to be built not by controlling people or predicting outcomes, but by controlling yourself. Mastering yourself, that's the foundation and the most important place to start your mindset." Mindset isn't a motivational slogan. It's not just about thinking positive. It's the lens through which you interpret reality. When something difficult happens, do you immediately think, "Why me?" Or do you think, "What now?" That one choice, that mental framing, determines how much ownership you take over your life. People with a growth mindset, the belief that their abilities can improve through effort and learning, respond to setbacks as feedback, not failure. They see time as an asset, not a burden. They understand that progress is built through uncomfortable moments, not by avoiding them. And most importantly, they realize that controlling their reactions is more powerful than trying to control the world. This kind of thinking changes everything. It stops you from being reactive, and it makes you intentional. That's the second thing you can always control: your time. Most people say they don't have time, but that's rarely true. The problem isn't time, it's attention. It's how we choose to spend our time, who we give it to, and whether or not those choices are aligned with the future we claim to want. You don't need 10 more hours in your day. You need to stop giving hours to things that don't move you forward: mindless scrolling, unproductive conversations, meaningless obligations that come from a fear of saying no. Every hour is a vote for your future or a vote against it. And if you look honestly at how you spend your time, you'll see whether your future is being built or abandoned. That leads to another layer: decisions. Every decision you make, no matter how small, is shaping who you become. The food you eat, the books you read, the way you speak to others, the people you choose to listen to. Most of these choices seem small in the moment, but over time they compound. And the compound effect is not philosophy. It's math. It's logic. If you make small decisions today that are aligned with growth, discipline, and long-term thinking, your future will reflect that. But if you keep choosing convenience, comfort, and short-term emotion, don't be surprised when 5 years pass and your life hasn't changed. Now, the final piece: your habits. Your future is hidden in your daily patterns. Success isn't a single action. It's not a breakthrough moment. It's a result of the boring, consistent things you do every day, especially when no one is watching. That's what separates those who build the future they want from those who only talk about it. Discipline, structure, self-control. Not just once in a while, but daily, whether they feel like it or not. And here's the deep part. When you master your habits, you begin to trust yourself. That inner trust is where confidence comes from. Not from pretending to have it all together, but from knowing that you're showing up consistently to do the work that future you will thank you for. So let me ask you, where is your attention going? What are you feeding? Distraction or direction? Excuses or execution? The world is noisy. It wants you to believe that you need to be in control of everything in order to succeed. The economy, the market, the algorithm, the audience. But that's an illusion. You don't need to control everything. You only need to control you. How you think, how you act, how you grow. Everything else follows that. This isn't easy, but it is simple. The moment you stop outsourcing your power to people, to systems, to circumstances, and begin to invest that energy back into yourself, your mindset, your time, your habits, your decisions, That's the moment you begin building a future on solid ground, not a future that depends on being lucky, a future that depends on being ready. Control what you can, let go of what you can't, and then watch what happens when your energy stops leaking into the world and starts building your future. If you really want to make your own future, you have to understand something that most people ignore. Your future isn't some distant, dramatic event waiting to happen. It's not a single moment where everything suddenly falls into place. It's not a someday that arrives with fanfare. The truth is much simpler and much more demanding. Your future is being built right now. In the quiet, in the ordinary, in the decisions you make every single day. People love to talk about legacy, about impact, about doing something meaningful. But legacy isn't built in grand gestures. It's not what you leave behind when you're gone. It's what you leave behind in the process of living. And that process is shaped by what you choose to do today, not tomorrow, not next year, today. Think about that for a second. Every conversation, every decision, every habit, every response, these are the bricks. Most people wait for a blueprint before they start building, but the reality is the blueprint emerges as you build. The structure is revealed through the doing. And yet, we waste so much time. We delay action thinking we need more clarity. We delay purpose thinking it will arrive like a lightning bolt. We delay our future thinking we're not ready. But readiness doesn't come from waiting. It comes from doing, from showing up daily, not just when it's exciting, not just when the motivation is high, but especially when it's not. This is where most people quietly quit on themselves. They treat the day as disposable. They think it's just one day, it doesn't matter. But that's exactly how the future is lost, one unimportant day at a time. You don't fall behind in your life in a single dramatic moment. You fall behind in the days you decide not to care, in the days you abandon your standards, in the days you convince yourself that consistency doesn't matter. But it does. Consistency is what separates those who build something lasting from those who just talk about it. Jack Ma once said, "We are never in lack of money. We lack people with dreams who can die for those dreams." That's a powerful statement because it reveals something we often forget. People who build the future they want don't just dream. They commit. They commit every day, even when it's invisible, even when no one else sees the effort. Especially then. That's the psychological shift. When you realize that your effort today is not separate from your future, but directly responsible for it, you begin to treat time differently. You stop waiting for meaning, and you start creating it. You stop measuring your life by how much you've achieved, and start measuring it by how aligned your actions are with who you want to become. The philosopher William James once said, "Act as if what you do makes a difference." It does. Simple words, deep truth. Because what you do makes a difference, even if that difference doesn't show up for months or years. You may not see the effect right away, but that doesn't mean the effect isn't there. In fact, the most important changes are often the most invisible at first. Your future doesn't need you to be perfect. It doesn't need you to have everything figured out. But it does need you to be present. It needs you to stop seeing today as a throwaway and start seeing it as the most powerful tool you have. Because here's the philosophical reality. The future doesn't exist yet. It's not a place you're going. It's a reality you're constructing, moment by moment. And if you ignore the present, you're not just wasting time. You're neglecting your power to create. You're giving away your authorship. It's easy to fantasize about the life you want. It's much harder to live in a way that earns it, especially when no one's watching. But that's the path. Quiet, consistent alignment. Not just with goals, but with values, with integrity, with vision. And when you live that way, something unexpected happens. You begin to feel grounded, not because you've achieved everything, but because you know you're doing what matters. You know you're showing up. You know your life is in motion, not in theory, but in practice. So ask yourself, what does your daily life say about your future? What would someone learn about your dreams just by watching how you spend your time? The answers might be uncomfortable, but they're clarifying. They show you where the work is. And that's the point. Awareness isn't judgment. It's an invitation. An invitation to step into the version of yourself that doesn't just talk about a better future, but lives in a way that brings it closer. No one builds a legacy overnight. No one changes their life in one leap. It's built in layers, through choices, through consistency, through self-respect. The future isn't something you wait for. It's something you show up for every single day.